Hi guys, so I'm gonna talk about mounting optics, height of bore, shit like that. But I just noticed that first things first. Yeah, so what am I talking about? So when you're this is a cutaway, not a real rifle. When you're aiming your rifle, you want to have as many points of contact to the rifle as possible, and you should be sturdy. For example, the stock to your shoulder, your hand in the front, your hand in the back, and also your cheek here. So this is a very shitty stock, but still you need to get your eye in line with the sights. And the best part is the meaty part of your this part of your face. Anything else is not that sturdy, because this has a little bit of muscle in it, which acts as padding, which basically locks you into the firearm, right? So what happens if I were to put an optic on this AK? Let's grab some. Oh, this flashlight can double up for an optic. Let's say you do the Spetsnaz version and have it super high. Then I have to come up higher with my head as well. So as you can see, I'm getting a shin weld, as we call it. So I put the stock to my shin. That can have some. The only real time you need to have that high on optic mount is if you're using night vision equipment, because then it gets in the way if you're up here with the stock. That's the only time that is pretty much appropriate. And as a sport shooter, I never need that. I need a good cheek weld. So if I for some reason have to have a high optics mount, I need to raise the cheek weld as well. So let's take a look at this. So this picture here is some kind of Russian special forces soldier. As you can see, he has it on his shin, the stock. He would be better served with raising that up. I think I saw a picture of that. Well, this soldier has a cheek piece that can be raised. This one seems to not have it, and it's very high over bore. The height over bore, if this is the rifle and this is the optic, it means that if you aim here, the bullet will hit here in close range usually. So you need to know where to aim, and that can be an issue. For example, if you're running IPSC or something and shooting through holes or whatever, you can shoot the barricades. That's usually a penalty. You can get a DQ for that. If you are a soldier or a policeman, that can be even worse. Right, yeah. So my favorite one is the MP5 to nag about, because, for example, the Swedish police has a similar solution to this. This is a regular stock. This is an optic on an AR-15 height mount. The AR-15 height is there because so you can see if you go draw a line here, you see that the stock isn't an inline recoil stock. That means that if the stock, the middle of the stock is in the middle of the bore of the barrel. The AR-15 is that. Let's grab some pictures of AR-15s so I can describe that. So typical AR-15. Here you can see the buffer tube and everything is in line here. On an AK it would start down here because of tradition, basically. Hunting rifles have always looked like that because they want you to get as close to the bore as possible with the sights, so then they lower it. The G3 is another good example of that, same as the MP5. So yeah, that's probably airsoft. Well, whatever. You can see that it's you get a bit lower. The traditional stock is a better example. Here we go. So you get a bit lower so you can use the iron sights. And if you raise this up too much, you should really raise the stock. The Spur stock is a good example of how to do this. See if we can find that stock. Here we go. So this stock is pretty much in line, and then you can have the raised optic. The Swedish rifle, yeah, well, here's another great example of that. This stock is a very good solution for the G3, for example. Let's go back to the MP5. So I wouldn't use this for an MP5, not with this stock. If you are a police officer that has riot equipment on with a big shield on your face, there are specific stocks for that go down and up. So whatever you have in front of your face won't interfere with the stock. MP5 riot stock, I don't know if that's the word. Yeah, well, here you can see what I'm talking about. This is the stock you use if you have that issue with shit on your face with an MP5. Brigger & Tomet uses that. Anyway, the MP5 is the same as the G3, that it has the iron sights. That one doesn't even have a stock. Let's see if we can find someone who actually managed to mount their optics properly on an MP5. Well, let's see. My MP5 is pretty good. Here we go. So here you can see I have a very low mount. This is a perfect co-witness of my iron sights. Actually, that's not a good picture of it. Do I have better pictures of my MP5? Well, probably. You can see, for example, the Steyr AUG has a high mount, but that's because you get a good cheek weld here. One thing to consider is there are reasons when you might want a high mount, a really high mount. That is, people who only do like police officers that do like house cleaning, sweeps and what have you. They can have a really high, the head can be really straight up and it can look straight forward instead of getting into the rifle like this. It's a little bit more ergonomical to be head high like this. It's a very specific usage scenario where that is appropriate. Let's see if we can find a pic of that. Well, here's a good picture of that. It looks ridiculous, but there are very narrow usage scenarios for this high mount. Except people LARPing, being high-speed operators or what have you. That isn't that useful for example, IPSC shooting, because the height of a bore gets too much. You really need to practice. If you're going to use that, you really need to practice your holdovers for really close range out to like 300 meters or whatever. An LPVO is better for IPSC, according to me. You can put an additional red dot on it on top of it and then zero that red dot to like 5 meters, 10 meters, whatever. and then you just look over your LPVO. That's probably a better solution. I'm not an IPSC shooter, so I wouldn't know. But this is probably too much of a hassle for anyone not specifically in need of this. People using night vision, people who has like problems with their neck or whatever. Talking about LPVOs. One thing you need to think about with LPVOs, especially when you use hilarious high mounts like this, is that you're gonna miss. You're gonna miss. This doesn't actually work for LPVOs. Unless you do some really fancy shit with it, with the stock. The thing with LPVOs is, LPVOs or low powered variable optics, like the one I have on the picture now, which is a really good one, by the way. It's the Vortex, whatever it's called. They have a fixed parallax setting to approximately 100-150 meters. The parallax is, if you look through a scope, you need to set the parallax correct, a magnified optic. Otherwise, when you move your head, if the rifle is still, the crosshairs are going to move as well. That is what parallax is, more or less. And if you cannot set your own parallax, no, you cannot set your own parallax on LPVOs, then you need to come up to the rifle at the exact same way each time. So a really high mount on an LPVO makes it so that you basically cannot get a good cheek weld each time. You get a shin weld on this picture. The stock will end up on your cheek or on your shin here. And it's super hard to index the same way all the time if you're not getting into your pocket here, up here in your cheekbone here. That is a very good index point. That's what's been used for hundreds of years. Putting it on your shin here, that's never a good solution. So you will come up to the optic different each time. It's not a big deal with a red dot usually, unless you have a cheap one, but red dots can still have parallax issues. But the really high mount for a red dot is not something you use for at distance. It's only like room clearing shit. So you're still going to have the issues with a red dot, but not as much, but mainly at longer distances. Anyway, so for an LPVO is an optic you want to be able to use at distance as well, right? That's not going to be possible, not with any kind of accuracy. You're going to get shitty groups if you have that, because you're not going to be able to get on the optic the same way all the time. At distance, precision is a thing. So then you have to be repeatable, and you cannot be repeatable with this high mount for an LPVO. So if you for some reason need to have it high because you have gear or something in front of the LPVO, like lasers or what, I don't know, then you need to get a cheek piece that you can raise up. So this rifle on the picture doesn't have that, but you need to get a cheek piece that can be raised up to get that indexing, so you always get on the optic the same way. Yeah, that is some information you might need on this. Mainly for high mounts like this, and for optics like the red dots, I wouldn't bother unless you have a very specific need for that. But I feel that the main reason people get these high mounts is because they think it looks cool. And if that's you, more power to you. Buy that expensive shit and look cool. Just know what you're getting yourself into when you do that. Okay, enough bullshitting from me. Have a nice day.